Welcome to another episode of Piecing It Together, the podcast where we take a look at a new movie and try to figure out what movies inspired it. And today on the show, we are talking about Fight or Flight, which is a fun little action movie with Josh Hartnett on a plane as a hitman, and the whole plane is filled with hit peoples. They're all out to get each other. It's ridiculous, but it was a lot of fun. And Josh Bell is joining me. Josh Bell from Awesome Movie Year. And we had a great time talking about this one. Lots of great stuff to get into. Lots of plane movies, but also lots of other action things and all kinds of other stuff. So lots of great puzzle pieces to get into here. Before we get to it, I do want to remind you, as always, to make sure you are subscribed to Piecing It Together wherever you listen to podcasts. You can follow us on social media at PiecingPod. And with that said, let's get into Fight or Flight. All right, Josh Bell is back with us to get into some Fight or Flight. How's it going, Josh?
It's going okay. How are you?
I'm good. I'm ready to talk about a fun movie with you.
Sure, fun. Yes, let's have some.
Josh Bell talking about a fun, silly, over-the-top action movie. I'm excited about this, actually.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes those are enjoyable, I think, for me.
Yeah, they should be, you know. There's some movies are just goofy ridiculousness. Sometimes you just need Josh Hartnett in a Hawaiian shirt, just punching and kicking and throwing and shooting and stabbing and all of those things. And that's what we get. That's what we get. Yeah. And we have a good time with it. So.
Yeah. We do.
We'll get into some interesting puzzle pieces here, but are you a big Josh Hartnett fan, Josh?
I mean, I don't know. I guess he's like not. I think Josh Hartnett is someone that I never really thought about.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same way. That's exactly how I feel.
I never disliked him. He was a sort of ubiquitous presence in the late 90s, early 2000s, like teen movies, and I'm sure I saw horror movies that he was in. Halloween H2O, right? Wow. I think he was in that one.
Yeah.
And I'm sure other ones that I'm not thinking of now. And he was mostly like, oh, there he is.
Yeah.
And I think that was pretty much it. And then he kind of went away and that was okay too. And now he's seeming to have a comeback and that's also okay. Like he's good. I feel like maybe he's gotten more distinctive now that he's a little older and maybe he has distinguished himself from the pack of generic young actors that he was perhaps part of. And I enjoyed his work in Trap and I enjoyed him here. But I'm not someone who I feel like he did have this fan base of people who really loved his teen era and are really excited that he's going to have this comeback now. And I was just, okay.
Yeah,
sure.
If he's here, he's here. If he's not, he's not. But I went and saw this movie with my dad, and he was like, I don't think I'm going to like this. Even though it's an action movie, he's like, I don't think I'm going to like this. I don't like Josh Hartnett. And I was like, really? You don't like Josh Hartnett? Why don't you like Josh Hartnett? And he's like, I don't know. I was like, well, there you go. Just strap in and we'll have a good time. But I'm excited to get into this one. And I too am a fan of Trap. I think he was just having a blast in that movie, and I think it's fun to see this guy having a blast. He's very infectious, and that's I think some of the best stuff about this one. But that being said, though, let's start getting into it. What do you have for your first puzzle piece?
Well, there are so many action movies set on planes, and I wasn't sure exactly how many of them we should go through here. So I will pick Passenger 57 as the first one, because maybe that's a less likely one to pick. And I have very vague memories of seeing this Wesley Snipes movie from the era when Wesley Snipes was like the guy for these dumb high concept action movies. And this is one where he's on a plane and he's a action guy and he takes out a bad guy. And I mean, really, I was looking up the plot to try to refresh my memory because I think this movie's from like 1992 and I'm pretty sure that's the last time I saw it.
Same. Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. Wesley Snipes on a plane, action, kicks, punches, shoots, beats the bad guys. It's efficient. It was exactly what you wanted from Wesley Snipes then. And I feel like this is the spirit that this movie is trying to capture. That kind of meat and potatoes, unpretentious, a movie that I'm sure Passenger 57 opened in a whole ton of theaters and probably made a bunch of money. And now Fight or Flight, I mean, we're lucky that it opened in theaters at all. And in fact, I think in the UK, it went straight to streaming. So, but that's the kind of spirit it's evoking is movies like that were really box office workhorses at that time.
Yeah, no, absolutely fair. And this is definitely that kind of movie where it's just like, this seems like it might be a fun 90 minutes. And like, that's what you're getting with this movie. And yeah, Passenger 57, like you said, we could name dozens of action movies on planes. I think that's a very solid one, even though, like you said, I haven't seen it in, 30 years ish or so,
Yeah.
something. So, that being said, I'm just going to get it out of the way. Like, probably like the most obvious puzzle piece that I think everybody kind of thought of when the trailer for this one came out. And it's not on a plane, but it is on a train. And that is Bullet Train with Brad Pitt as a blonde assassin in a vehicle out of control, full of other assassins, and they're all just going after each other. And I was not a big fan of Bullet Train. I like this movie better. I mean, Bullet Train is certainly a bigger movie, certainly a bigger budget, I would imagine. I don't know what the budget was, but it seemed like a bigger budget. But they seem like they essentially did the exact same thing, even though this is a much smaller movie, just put out by Vertical, and like you said, not even in theaters in some locations. And I feel like they are practically the same thing, just one's on a train and one's a plane. Yeah, you get more like teamwork between factions on Bullet Train and all that kind of stuff that they were trying to do, but essentially you show up for this charismatic guy who doesn't really want to be on the job, but he's there and he has to kill people. He doesn't really want to kill people, but he's got to do it for whatever reason. And in this case, Josh Hartnett wants his life back, and so he's kind of stuck doing this gig. And hyper violence, hyper stylized, some great action sequences, and then it's over, and you're like, that was a good time.
Yeah, I was also a little let down by Bullet Train. And I mean, I think one of the things is you were just saying how this movie is like, oh, it's a solid 90 minutes. And I think Bullet Train is a good half hour longer than that,
Sure.
if not more. And that was a movie that I kind of was having fun with for a while, and then it wore me out over
Mhm.
time. And because it's a bigger budget thing, because it stars Brad Pitt and not Josh Hartnett, it has to keep escalating and escalating with these bigger and bigger set pieces. And it just kind of got tiresome. So I enjoyed this one more as well. But of course, I had Bullet Train on my list. You've also got the Sandra Bullock character in there, like Katee
Right.
Sackhoff here, who's, constantly giving him orders and telling him, you got to do this, you got to get this done, keep me updated, all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's a fun character for sure. So, what do you got next?
Well, should I go with more planes, or should we should we switch things up here?
You can do whatever you want. We can go with planes, trains, and various other
Automobiles,
things.
planes, trains,
Yes.
and automobiles.
Yes.
Well, I will go with another plane then and mention Con Air.
Mm.
And not only is this an action movie set on a plane, but I think this also, unlike Passenger 57, gets the whole misfit crew of outlaws and assassins and whatever, who all have their own agendas. And you've got Nicolas Cage as the one guy who's also kind of, he's an outlaw too, but he's got a heart of gold or whatever.
Sure.
And he just wants his life back, and everything is going wrong around him, and he's trying to keep things together. And so that's kind of what we've got going on here. And one of the things I think that I was slightly disappointed in with Fight or Flight was that once you find out that like the plane is full of all of these rogue agents and assassins from other factions and whatever, there weren't enough of them that were like distinctive enough.
Sure.
As
Yeah.
characters. They all kind of just like popped up and then were dispatched, and we didn't really learn much about them. You've got that Marco Zaror character who talks about how he's doing a dance routine or whatever toward the beginning, and the kind of I don't know where they were supposed to be from, like the almost like monk-ish assassins or whatever. But otherwise, even they just sort of pop up quickly and then are gone. And Con Air is full of, obviously it's got that ridiculously stacked cast, but it's just full of fun, silly, distinctive characters that you can watch throughout. And like Bullet Train, it gets too much. I think it's again, it was a much bigger budget movie, and it goes on and on. I know people love Con Air, and it's a whole Vegas thing too, but it's fun, and I think this is capturing some of that spirit.
Yeah. I tried to shy away from plane movies, but Con Air was going to be my one that I would bring up. So
I
yeah,
took it from you.
it's all good. It's all good. I got other things, but
Well, I got lots more plane movies if you need them.
good. You could just we'll race through them at the end
Yeah.
for sure. Anything else that you have left over, but I will go to I wasn't going to do them back to back, but why not? I'm going to go with my other train movie. It's just from last year, Kill, an Indian movie, just nonstop action on a train, which obviously similar reason for doing it with Bullet Train, but also like there's a lot of melodramatic character moments and stuff like that in both Fight or Flight and this. We got the whole thing with the ghost and the child workers that she's trying to save and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of that stuff kind of injected to to break it up from just simply being 90 minutes of action, and you get a little bit of attempts at character stuff. But Kill, I believe, was one of the many Lionsgate, like John Wick, but in a different situation kind of movies. I could have swore Fight or Flight was one of those, and then I found out, oh no, actually it's Vertical. But it seems like Lionsgate puts out one of these at least once a year, if not twice a year, of these, like, it feels like John Wick, but it's also these other people in a different place. But Kill was a really good version of that, and with some really great over-the-top violence. And while the story didn't exactly do anything, special or unique, it definitely had those violent moments.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. I wanted to, and it was on my list to check out last year, and I didn't get to it, but it looked like a lot of fun.
Well, what do you got next?
Well, I'm going to continue our journey through modes of transportation and go
Mm.
to a ship
Mm.
and mention Under Siege, the
Okay.
Steven Seagal film.
Yeah.
Which is one of his best, probably the best Steven Seagal movie. And the great thing about Under Siege is he's the cook, and everyone thinks he's just a cook, but he's got the skills. And in a way, even though Josh Hartnett is meant to be this, like, he's this ex Secret Service agent here, still the way he's introduced, where he's drunk in the bar and everybody's kind of like, who is this Yahoo? But of course, he's going to be able to pull it all together and get everyone to follow him and all this stuff. And so that's sort of what's going on. I feel like Josh Hartnett has more of a sense of humor in this film than Steven Seagal has ever had in his life. But I mean, as far as that stuff goes, and that has great villains, which again, it goes back to, I think, one of the issues with this film is that we don't have a great, like, villain character really to match up to Josh Hartnett. But between Tommy Lee Jones and Gary Busey, you've got great villains in Under Siege.
Yeah, and also to the point of Steve, I hadn't thought of Under Siege. It's a great piece, and especially with the idea of him being a cook, but always actually this secret badass. You've got the ghost, Charithra Chndran. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but she is the flight attendant, but she's actually a secret badass. So if it's not the Josh Hartnett character, she could also be the Steven Seagal of this movie as well.
Right. And of course, Josh Hartnett is the only one who's like, oh, it's you. You're the ghost. I figured it out.
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to go for my next one, stepping away from modes of transportation, but sticking with hyper-stylized action. I'm going to go with Birds of Prey for my next one. Once Josh Hartnett drinks what he thinks is adrenaline, but turns out to be, I guess, like rat poison or something.
I thought it was it toad venom?
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's what it's supposed to be.
That's in Friendship, too, which just came out this weekend. But anyway.
It was also in another recent movie. I feel like it's a trend somehow now.
Wow. Very interesting. We should do a podcast on that. But yeah, once that happens, everything just gets super hyper stylized in ways that don't even necessarily make any kind of sense, but super colorful and cartoonish, and the action sequences just get kicked up an insane amount. And it reminded me a lot of just the embellishments that happened in the whole Harley Quinn superhero woman team up of Birds of Prey, and all of those action sequences with the colorful flowers and effects and all the kind of stuff going on. And then also those protector girls who show up, they kind of feel almost like that kind of a team as well in this, just like the Birds of Prey team. And so just some really fun over the top stuff there, even if it doesn't necessarily make sense.
Yeah, that is a fun movie, and I was sorry I got hung up on the toad venom. I think it was mentioned in Fountain of Youth, the Apple TV. Yeah, you shouldn't, but
no, yeah, I'm sure.
It's just, I think it's just like an aside, like when Natalie Portman's character is talking about one of their past misadventures, like, oh my God, remember when you made me drink toad venom or something like that. I'm not 100. I saw that movie like 5 days ago, and already it's barely
it's gone.
can remember it, but I think that's right. But
yeah.
Birds of Prey, better than Fountain of Youth,
Good.
and a good pick. Yeah, a fun movie that's kind of underrated, I think, maybe now.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you got next?
Well, I will stick with the stylized craziness then and mention Crank, the
Mm-hmm.
Jason Statham film, which especially during the sequence that you just described, this is emulating that kind of constant crazy escalation. But I feel like even when Josh Hartnett is not on drugs, it's a lot of that ridiculousness and a lot of the kills. It's not just like he shot some guy, but he's got to jam his head into a overhead sprinkler or whatever, all of this kind of stuff. And the ways that he's got to keep himself going because he's, gotten drunk or whatever, and can't ever take a moment to stop just because things are constantly coming at him, not because he's going to die like in Crank. But still, I think that is emulating that frenetic approach.
Yeah, absolutely. Lots of really fun stuff there. And I got to rewatch the Crank movies. Those seem like they would be my favorite movies ever, but I also haven't seen them since they came out. And I remember them being like absolutely just a little too stupid, but also like I feel like I would probably love them if I revisited them one of these days. But speaking of that whole final sequence, and we'll jump around, of course, as we're going through puzzle pieces. But since we're on that whole sequence, I got to bring up Army of Darkness because a chainsaw does get thrown through the air to our hero, who then takes it and does all kinds of horrifically violent, bloody things with it. So, come on, that's a little bit of Ash influence there. It's got to be, right?
Well, I suppose it would be impossible for you to get through any of these episodes without mentioning an Evil Dead movie. But
yeah.
The chainsaw is a trademark of those films, so
It
I'll have
is.
to give you that.
There you go. Thank you, Josh. Thank you.
Sure.
What do you got next?
Well, I mean, the obvious influence on all of these things is Die Hard. So I feel like we might as well mention that. Of course, the second Die Hard takes place on a plane.
Hey, there
but
you
weirdly, is the only Die Hard I have never seen. So I feel like I can't confidently include that, even though I probably know just as much about it as Passenger 57, which I saw 33 years ago.
Yeah.
But I mean, Die Hard is the template for any of these. You were talking about Lionsgate doing like John Wick, but this or whatever. But so many of these movies are just Die Hard in a whatever,
right.
Going back.
Under Siege was one.
Right.
Yeah.
It was Die Hard on a naval ship. And this is Die Hard on a plane. And so, I mean, it's been a very, very durable formula throughout not only the Die Hard movies, but so many of these movies that copy Die Hard. And many of them are bad, but I feel like it's the kind of thing that you can do and get away with copying if you just deliver some fun action and some cool characters. And that's what they do here.
Yeah, I think so. And also, like, back to Josh Hartnett, like just having fun with this movie. I got to imagine, like, when a script comes to you and it's like Die Hard, but this, it's like, that's got to be such a fun gig to take on, I would imagine, as an actor. I think that you would be like, hell yeah, I want to do that. And especially on a plane with hyper stylized violence and just all this crazy shit, I'm sure it just is just a blast to make something like this.
Yeah, I mean, and if this movie had been made 30 years ago or 25 years ago or whatever, it would star Bruce Willis.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. That would be a good movie too.
Yeah.
I will go to, remember Free Fire, the Ben Wheatley film?
I do remember that.
Yeah, I obviously haven't seen it since the theater. I don't think anybody's seen it since the first time they saw Free Fire, but it was pretty good. It was a fun time. Charlotte Copley, Armie Hammer, Brie Larson, a bunch of killers trapped in one location, all after each other. Again, it kind of goes back to our first piece with Bullet Train, but it is a tried and true formula for sticking people in a room and they're in close quarters and they all have weapons of some sort, whether it be guns. I think everybody had a gun in Free Fire, or various other forms of weaponry, and just going after each other nonstop. It's a fun way to set up an action movie like this.
Yeah, I feel like that movie, I was sort of disappointed in its execution of that premise, but as you said, I saw it in the theater and do not recall anything really about it.
Yeah, I feel like it could have gotten more over the top like this does, and I think that it was played a little bit calmer, which is weird for a premise like that, but I think it was maybe a little too restrained, and so that's probably the biggest problem with that one. But Ben Wheatley's kind of hit or miss for me. So
Yeah, I haven't really been a huge fan of his, but
yeah,
yeah, that was one of his better efforts, maybe.
yeah. What do you got next?
Well, I feel like I should just officially put John Wick in there, right? Because we've
Sure.
just been talking about it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, one thing that John Wick has, one aspect that we're sort of mentioning here is the whole like all of these assassins are now activated to take down our hero.
And they all get the phone messages.
Right,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly, because that's what happens here. Like, not only are they all there to get the ghost, who is the terrorist that Josh Hartnett has been assigned to get, but at some point they also are now all set to get him too, as
Mhm.
part of the nefarious plan by Katee Sackhoff's like underling or whatever. Is a very underdeveloped subplot there,
Yeah.
but something like that. Yeah, I barely even remember this movie. but right, the idea that you can just send out this message and all of these people will suddenly be activated and will be set against this guy that you're trying to eliminate. And that's of course what happens to John Wick and continues to happen to John Wick throughout the entire franchise.
Yeah.
And we have, in a way, given the color, even if they're not as developed as they could be, there is a whole hint of the range of colorful characters here on this plane. And it's almost like the assassin world of John Wick. Like, where did all these people come from and how did they all end up on this plane and how have they been hired? And we don't get into that mythology here, which is good, but it resembles what's going on in the John Wick movies.
And as I love John Wick 3 and 4 more than even the first two, I would probably like the expanded fight or flight universe. So,
Yeah. Well, the end of this movie kind of hints that you might get that.
yeah, you never know. We'll see what happens. No one ever would have expected it at the end of John Wick. So, we do not have any clue. But I've got a few other things, but I feel like the one other piece that is the most kind of essential that I want to include here is Payback. As far as these kinds of like action hero guys who are just kind of very reluctant and maybe drunk and maybe just don't give a shit about doing the thing that they're doing. Mel Gibson in Payback is so much fun to watch, and I love that about Josh Hartnett's character. I would like this movie even more if he was even more of a shitbag, basically, and I would think it would have been even more fun if it took more notes from that kind of a thing. But I love that kind of movie. And maybe there's a better version of that like this is more in line with. But Payback was the number one thing I thought of for that kind of a character.
Have you seen the director's cut of Payback? I know that's supposed to be the better version of it.
I know, and I have it, and I've never seen it. I've watched the theatrical cut like a dozen times probably, and I've never watched the director's cut. One of these days I got to sit down and watch it.
Oh, that's weird because I feel like that's the one that has the reputation for being good. I
like
never saw that.
the theatrical from day one, and I was just like
right.
all in on it already.
All
But
right.
yeah, I got to watch that new cut. Like new, it's like 20 years ago or something. But I got to watch that cut at some point.
Yeah, I saw that the theatrical cut in the theater at the time, and I don't remember a whole lot about it, but I know that there's that other version out there.
Yeah,
But, also, if they made this movie 30 years ago, Mel Gibson could have starred in it.
another one. Absolutely. Yeah. What do you got left?
All right. Well, I'll name a bunch of plane movies, but before that, Dread, the sci-fi film that we talked about, we did an awesome movie year episode on.
Sure.
And also definitely influenced by Die Hard. But, that character, the comic book character who has existed for far longer, and they kind of simplify, which is good. That's a character with a lot of mythology and a whole decades long history of various stories. But they make this movie by just locking him in this building and having him and his like sidekick have to work their way through all these obstacles and henchmen and danger to get to the big boss played by Lena Headey in that film. And so even though it's not quite the same and we don't get a sense of, I feel like one thing maybe is also lacking here is you get not as much a sense of like the geography of this plane, like the layout of everything, and it's not working their way from one end to the other or something like that. But there still is these close quarters, lots of close quarters fights and lots of logistics of getting from one part of the plane to another and keeping someone safe and all that. So I feel like that was this is on a smaller scale, but also that contained sort of storytelling in this linear location.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And to that point about not getting the geography, like I've never been on a double decker plane before, but like when they're in like the first class area and then the other area, I was like, how do you get from one area of a plane to another area of plane? Like, it doesn't seem possible. I don't know,
And
but
there was definitely one point where they're having like huge, like violent battles in one part of the plane, and then they walk in another part, and all the passengers are just sitting there, and they're like, "Oh
just
no!
chill.
Like,
Yeah.
did you not know what was going on
Didn't
elsewhere?
hear any
Was it not
shooting,
loud?"
any banging, any of that kind of
Right.
stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
no. Yeah. All right. You know what? Actually, before you go to your list of plane movies, I will throw Shoot 'Em Up on there because although I don't feel like this movie, I wish this movie got as insane as Shoot 'Em Up with Clive Owen, which is just wonderful. It definitely does feel like it's kind of cut from that kind of cloth of it wanted to go there and have this character that is just so cartoonishly over the top. And if it had, this would probably be like a favorite of the year for me, you know what I mean? But it doesn't quite get there, unfortunately. But Shoot 'Em Up is a movie that any chance I get on a movie like this to recommend it, I feel like I should.
I hate that movie.
I bet you
I
do.
really hate that movie. And I'm glad that this stayed. I mean, this is fun and it's over the top, but I feel like it's still like legible. Like, and he's a character, you know,
Yeah,
you can follow his motivations and his arc and whatever. And Josh Hartnett does a good job of giving you some emotional weight to this guy doing all this ridiculous stuff. And shoot him out, he's like carrying the baby the whole time.
It's
And
awesome.
so terrible. So
He's got the
terrible.
carrot. It's
Oh,
wonderful.
God.
Wonderful. All right, name us some plane movies, Josh.
All right.
What
Well,
do
I
you
only
got?
have three more. I feel like I could have listed. I decided I shouldn't list that many, but I did have
Yeah.
three more on my list. Steven Seagal again in Executive Decision, although he's not really the main. It's really mainly Kurt Russell in that, and then I think he teams up with a flight attendant played by Halle Berry. Another movie I haven't seen in like 30 years, but
Sure.
remember enjoying quite a lot. Air Force One, of course. Harrison Ford, Get Off My Plane. That's a classic.
Sure.
And then I'm sure this is not an actual influence, but a movie that wanted to be these movies and failed so spectacularly that it came around to being a notorious bad movie is the recent Money Plane, which no one should watch.
Was that Chris? Wait, who was in that?
It's a wrestler. I forget which one.
One of the wrestlers.
And
yeah.
all the Lawrence brothers are in it, and one of them directed it.
Okay.
Kelsey Grammer
Oh,
is a
boy.
villain. Thomas Jane.
Okay.
It's very, very, very bad, but it definitely has gotten it's been on, what is it? How Did This Get Made? And some of these kind of podcasts. It has a bit of a amusingly bad reputation, and it's not amusing enough, but
Sure.
you can see in its very inept way, in its extremely low budget way, where in no way do any of the interiors even remotely look like anyone is on a plane at any point.
Yeah.
It's trying to be Die Hard 2. It's trying to be Executive Decision, Pass, any of these things that we just talked about, and is failing spectacularally. But
it sounds wonderful.
Yeah, it's so I threw that in there too.
I was trying to think. Yeah, nonstop. I was the whole time I'm thinking, was Liam Neeson on a plane movie? There you go. Nonstop. Throw it on the list. All right. I think we got a lot of really good stuff here. But Josh, any closing thoughts? Anything we didn't quite get to you want to mention about this one?
No, it's fun. I don't want to oversell it. Like I said, I mean, there's definite flaws, and it doesn't end, which I felt like was the biggest flaw of it.
Sure. Yeah.
And I saw it a few weeks ago, and it's already kind of faded from memory. But if you like this sort of stuff, if you like that kind of goofy action, you like the movies that we were talking about just now, it is a good time, and good for Josh Hartnett for finding this niche where he can have fun and get some more roles and whatever. So yeah, it's like a marginal positive for me.
Yeah, fair enough. I feel like our awesome movie year co-host Jason Harris will love this movie. So.
Yeah, it seems like the kind of thing he would like, and anyone who likes this sort of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that does it for Fight or Flight. Josh, is there a movie you watched recently you want to recommend to our listeners?
Yeah, I was going to recommend Summer of '69, the Hulu original comedy written or co-written and directed by Julian Bell, no relation, but hometown Las Vegas hero here, graduate of Bishop Gorman High School in Las Vegas. And she's been a reliable comedy actress for quite a while. This is her directorial debut, and it stars Chloe Fineman as a stripper who is hired by a teenager to teach her about sex because this teenage girl wants to be prepared to have sex with her crush. And it's a very classic teen movie premise, and it plays with that very knowingly. There's lots and lots of references to Risky Business, which is a much better, but like excellent classic teen movie.
Mhm.
And it's just a lot of fun. Chloe Fineman is very enjoyable as the exotic dancer, and it's really more about like the weird friendship that forms between these two people rather than the romantic story. So, kind of goofy, kind of silly, much like this movie, but
Yeah.
enjoyable. Summer of '69 on Hulu.
Right on. Yeah, I'm gonna probably watch that one. It sounds like it's a fun time, and we always like Jillian Bell, so that's cool.
Yeah.
So, right on, Josh. Where can people find everything you're up to?
You can find me. Old things from me are at joshbellhateseverything.com. I'm at Josh Bell Hates Everything on Facebook, at Signal Bleed on Blue Sky and on Letterboxd. And you can check out Awesome Movie Year wherever you listen to podcasts, at awesomemovieyear.com, and Awesome Movie Year on Facebook and Instagram.
Right on. Well, this was great, and I look forward to getting you back again sometime, Josh.
Sounds good.
All right, so I hope you enjoyed that conversation about Fight or Flight. Thank you to Josh Bell for joining me on that one, and thank you to all of you for listening. If you're enjoying piecing it together, make sure you are subscribed wherever it is that you're listening right now. You could also follow us on social media at Piecing Pod, and don't forget to join our Facebook group, Popcorn and Puzzle Pieces, where we continue the conversation about all the movies we talk about here on the show. With that said, it's time to wrap this thing up with a piece of my music like we always do. And what high octane action, over the top, awesome, crazy, action packed piece do I have to play today? I gotta have something. Let's see here. You know what? We're going with something that is up in the air, some craziness going on a plane or somewhere up in the air whatsoever. Let's go with a track called Palace in the Sky from my most recent album, Missing Pieces. I think this could fit really well for this. So yeah, let's go with that. This is Palace in the Sky, which is a very upbeat track and very kind of skybound kind of track. Is skybound a phrase? I think it is. Anyway, this is Palace in the Sky from my latest instrumental album, Missing Pieces. Hope you enjoy it, and we'll be back for more piecing it together real soon.
An All Points West production, produced by David Rosen in Las Vegas.